we always believe that great content should have been born out of great ideas and then great research and then you're composing it, you're editing it, and then you're distributing it. But the reality is that no matter how hard you try, you got to get an idea, but it's on an editorial calendar, so you got to pump it out. You try to research like crazy, but you don't have the time to do that. You spend a crap ton of time writing it. You send it off to your editor who's got to do it within an hour to stay within budget, and you hope to distribute it and promote it, but you got another article to write. Now, if the AI world has it so composition is faster, you can spend more time on those extra ingredients like better ideation, better research, better editing, and better distribution. And so you can reinvest in places that are going to be more consequential because everyone has access to these AI writing tools. So you can either be more efficient and save money or know that the competition is coming, and then you would reinvest to make basically the spear bigger, stronger, and faster.
Welcome to the Agents of Change, the podcast experience you've been waiting for your entire marketing career. Search, social, mobile, AI, blockchain, and neuromarketing. These are the Agents of Change, and so are you. Digital marketing success awaits, and your transformation begins now.
Welcome back to another episode of the Agents of Change podcast. I'm your host, Rich Brooks, and this is a podcast that's all about helping you reach more of your ideal clients online. We're up to episode 504, and this is powered by the Agents of Change Conference 2023. Today we're going to be talking about, no surprise, AI, artificial intelligence. Specifically, different ways in which you can be using it for your own marketing in your own business. Our guest today runs a successful marketing agency, and he's going to share how he's using it to improve performance, productivity, and profit. This goes way beyond just generative AI, so I know you're going to get a lot out of this week's episode. I'm just back from a whirlwind of a week. Monday, I attended the Portland City Council meeting in support of Visit Portland, an organization that's near and dear to my heart, which should have been a 2-hour meeting, devolved into a 5+ hour meeting, and I didn't get home until about 11:30 that night. Wednesday, I drove up to Rockport, Maine, and stayed at the beautiful Samoset Resort as I was speaking there the next day. This is like the 4th or 5th time I've had the opportunity to stay and present there, and every time I go, I always say to myself, why didn't you get here earlier? Why didn't you stay longer? I'm always in such a rush, and it's literally one of the most beautiful spots in the entire world, where you're surrounded by nature and your room always seems to look out into the Atlantic Ocean. Next day I got up, I presented on artificial intelligence and its impact on sawmills and the lumber industry, then immediately drove down to Boston, where the next day I presented on artificial intelligence and its impact on the banking industry. Then I came immediately back to Maine, and my lovely daughter Sophie stayed with us for a couple of days while she recuperates from having her wisdom teeth extracted. Ouch. I realize now that on Sunday morning that it might be a tight squeeze to get this episode live this week, and ditto for the following week, as we're coming up on a very big event here. Not sure if we'll get this live by this Wednesday, the 27th, or we'll have to take a week off and release it on 10/4. That date sounds familiar. Oh yeah, that's the date of the Agents of Change Digital Marketing Conference here in Portland, Maine. Okay, assuming I get this live on 9/27, and I'm gonna try, and you hear this on or before September 30th, 2023, then you are being alerted that this is your last chance to save on your Agents of Change ticket this year. We've got 9 amazing presentations on digital marketing by 9 incredible digital marketing experts. The event takes place in Portland, Maine, and besides taking in all of that great content, you're also going to be exposed to fantastic networking opportunities, new tools, and the community that is AOC. We still have some regular conference tickets left and about a dozen VIP passes. And if you can't make it to Portland that day, we also have a digital pass. And through September 30th, you can save $50 on any one of those opportunities. But if you are coming to town, you can take advantage of our deep dive workshops on Thursday, October 5th. These are half-day workshops led by some of today's top experts. You'll be hands-on with your laptop, tablet, or phone, really taking your skills to the next level. We have 3 morning and 3 afternoon workshops on the topics of video marketing, Facebook ads, Instagram strategies, GA4, paid search, and artificial intelligence. For the full schedule, you can check out everything at theagentsofchange.com and grab your discounted tickets. Okay, and now that I'm done with the pitching, let's dive into this week's discussion on AI. My guest today is President and CEO of Farotech and a Forbes Agency Council member. Farotech is an award-winning inbound digital marketing agency based just outside of Philadelphia with high-profile clients such as Penn Medicine, the Wharton School of Business, and the Rothman Orthopedics Institute. Recently, they've been recognized as an Inc. 5000 company and one of Philadelphia's 100 fastest growing companies. Today, we're going to be diving into how to implement AI in your marketing campaigns with Chris Carr. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
This is great. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited. You and I got to know each other at MACON back in July in Cleveland. It was great getting to know you through Andy, and looking forward to today's conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, it feels like you're light years ahead of me when it comes to the whole AI thing. How long have you and Farotech been using AI in your marketing?
Well, I had an interview. I met you at MACON, which was Paul Rotzer's event, and I met Paul through another gentleman named Chad Pollitt. But Chad said, you got to have this guy Paul on. He runs a HubSpot agency called PR 2020. So I invite him on, and I'm like, so tell me about PR 2020. And he's like, you didn't do your homework, pal. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, I sold that agency, and I do AI. And I was just like, well, I know a little bit about AI, but mostly it's the Terminator is going to kill us. That's what I thought. And then within an hour, we hung up the phone. It was me and my business partner were on the podcast with Paul. And we literally came back and said, everything is going to change. And I refused, after 20 years of building this agency, to get rolled by this new technology. So we're going to be ahead of it and stuff like that. And so for the last 3 years, we have lived, eat, dreamed, every single thing we possibly do has been AI related. And so I'm all in. I'm not saying I would love AI. I'm just saying that I have to be ahead of it.
It's a necessary good or a necessary evil, however you might look at it. It's happening.
Yeah.
So why do you feel this is such a game changer?
I think it's rocket fuel. Almost everything that we're seeing it's not even 10x, it's 100x. And it's a learning computer, so it's just only going to get better and better and better. I'm seeing it adopted in so many pieces of technology, and the things that they were dreaming of doing in their roadmap, they're able to actually finally get to. And I'm also seeing how the chips are lining up for the big players, and it's both amazing and scary at the same time.
So would you kind of talk us through some ways in which you're using it, like implementing marketing campaigns or whatever it may be in how you're using AI?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the things were the early things I was doing had to deal with what was called programmatic advertising. And what we were doing with AI there is we were using something called content.ai. And content.ai, essentially, you know how there's this whole war on privacy and things like that, and it's they don't want to know with cookies and stuff that I'm Chris Carr. But the game is kind of rigged in the fact that I have a device, and on that device is what's called a device ID. And while it might not know that I'm Chris Carr, it knows absolutely how to advertise to that device ID. And on that device ID, content AI basically measures everything that I look at, how I engage, every possible thing about my behavior, my demographics. It knows everything. The other thing it does is that, when you sign up for Netflix or all these things, you almost always sign up with a QR code, or they connect your phone to that platform. You think for you it's convenience. For them, all of the tracking information, almost pretend like it's a virus, is getting spread, so that now I can advertise to people on their phone, on their computer, on their podcast, on their TV. I can get it onto newsletters. And so you can never leave this ecosystem. You can never lose this ecosystem. And I'm going to talk to you later today about how Midjourney, the freakish things that are going to start to happen with generative imagery relation to ads, that are just going to be
All right, before we get to that, because it sounds like that's interesting too. But so what you're saying, because for those people can see, you held up your phone when you talked about this ID number. So it may not know Chris Carr or Rich Brooks or who's ever listening right here. But if we've used a QR code to set up Netflix or Hulu or anything, Spotify, that QR code is also passing information along. It may not know me by name, but it knows me by this ID number, which on some level is protecting my privacy, but not really in terms of being able to advertise to a white man who's 55 years old, likes comic books and artificial intelligence. As a random example, I just came up with that one. Oh, and Spider-Man too. So that's what you were starting with in terms of like being able to put the right message in front of the right person at the right time for you and your clients. Is that accurate? Okay,
then you move on to large language models. And before ChatGPT was ever a thing, I was using every tool under the sun, from Writer to Phrase to Jasper to whatever, only toying around with them. We picked Phrase. Phrase didn't have the chat element to it, but it was doing a lot of the things that were prompts that were basically pre-designed prompts. But that I remember the day that ChatGPT came out, and my business partner only comes to the office one day a week. I was like, dude, you got to get in here. What we thought was coming in 3 years is here right now, and everything's going to change. Yep. So that's some of the things. So I had advertising, then I had large language models. Then I got into Code Interpreter, which is now called Advanced Data Analytics, where I talk to my data. I use...
so walk us through that a little bit, like, because this is the part that I haven't cracked myself. Not that I've cracked everything anyway, but this is the part that I'm really interested in. So talk to me a little bit about how you're using... It used to be called Code Interpreter. Now what is it called? Advanced
Data Analytics. I mean, I can get why
Advanced Data.
I can get why they did that for sure. Let me kind of.
And this is a feature within ChatGPT.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. And then, you're going to start to see these play out in Duet. You're going to start to see these play out in all these formats. There's even one now that's called Open Interpreter, which is an open source version of this. Let me kind of just share my screen real quick, and I'll kind of walk you through it. Give me 1 second.
Sounds great.
Yep. So essentially what we're looking at here is with OpenAI, it's kind of like having a master's level data analyst sort of like in your pocket. And so when this technology came out, essentially what it allows you to do is upload raw data files, Excel files, data sets, whatever, into this engine that was called Code Interpreter. And Code Interpreter would essentially read these files. And some random guy, like literally as it came out, found crime data from San Francisco, uploaded the files. And as you can see on the left, it basically organized all the data and figured out everything from the day of the week, the hourly crime rates, seasonal crime rates, police data analysis, so on and so forth. And then he asked for visualizations. And you're seeing all these charts on the right-hand side, including heat maps of certain crime hotspots in San Francisco organized by date and time. Now, it literally was just simple in natural language prompt. You just literally just asked it to do things, and it did that, all right? So I took it one step further, and I went and I said, hey, I'm going to upload my advertising file for programmatic advertising. And what it did was, if you're following on here, I uploaded it, and I basically said, give me a chart of the distribution of conversions over time, and here's a chart, and there's a chart that basically just was whipped up out of thin air that I can paste into reports. Sometimes it would do an ugly report, so I'd ask for a cleaner report, and it would do that. I'm able to find outliers that way. It'll describe it in natural language, so I don't sound like an idiot, like my data is smarter than I am. It actually explains what I'm looking at. And then it'll also continue to do things like my top 10 creatives, or my top 5 campaigns and the number of conversions, my number of conversions an hour by day. I essentially have this raw data file, and I talk to it like it's a human being. All right. It's absolutely crazy. But here's where it's really important to understand. I'm a HubSpot agency. I have like 25 full service clients that essentially pay us $10,000 a month to run their entire campaigns for them. And sometimes I would have this thing where I would have like an outlier, and I would look at something and I would say, hey, my local keywords are not working for this client. Are they affecting all healthcare clients? Is it also affecting larger healthcare clients? What about websites that have been built in the last 2 years? Is it impacting clients who use HubSpot? Only who use HubSpot? Is it affecting highly competitive keywords? Which project managers and accounts are most affected?
All right, before you go on, I just want to pause here, especially for people who may not be able to watch this. So you've put all this data in there, and now you're just asking questions. Obviously, all of this data that you're asking questions about is data that you had already. And this is always one of the strengths and the weaknesses of these LLMs is the fact that they need to be fed a lot of data. So you had a lot of data already and you shared it with them. And I want to remember to come back and ask you about protecting data in the system, but we'll get to that. So that's where we are right now. All of those questions that you just posed to the LLM were in there, and the LLM is able to hopefully extract that data for you and give you an answer.
So we would export them. And then I would have to arrange the data into a spreadsheet. But imagine a spreadsheet that has 1 million columns. Some of these columns I only had to change one time, like who's the project manager on that account, or what's the budget on that account, when was the start date on the account, when was the website born. Other things I have to, in real time, I have to like put in their analytics data of like visits and turning visits and mobile usage and so on and so forth. But if I do that at one time in one export, I can start to talk to my data, and every quarter, the dream scenario is me and my business partners ask questions about like, what are we not seeing at a macro level?
Right. But you're able to do this because you have clients in healthcare, not just one, but you have multiple clients, some big, some small, some on HubSpot, some not on HubSpot. I'm just trying to kind of paint this picture of why you're able to do this with the data. If somebody was just starting their one client, they're not going to get that same level of sophisticated answers that you're able to pull because you have a good group of clients. Now, I want to get back to the question I was asking before. So I know that one of the concerns is that when you take client data and you upload it into something like ChatGPT, that you're basically sharing that data because ChatGPT is using us as we use it. So are there steps that you take to help protect the security and the privacy of the data that you're uploading?
Yeah, like for me, what I do is I was just de-identifying the data. So I would have all my clients in the first column, and then I would assign them a number, like you're an 80s guy, 867-5309, right?
Oh,
and then
Jenny,
later on, I would go in and just as I would start to ask questions, I would just have a key on the left-hand side that I could personally do that. Now, what you could do is you could use Open Interpreter, or you could buy the enterprise version of ChatGPT, and they're not going to train your data on, you know what I mean? Like now you're in a place where you're able to.
You're in a private sandbox where your data is not being shared. So it's being trained on your data, but it's not sharing that with the rest of the world.
It's exclusive to you.
All right. That is some really fascinating stuff that you're doing with it. And you're able to pull better information, and you're asking intelligent questions. You're getting great answers, and you're staying ahead of the competition because you're really leveraging this power of AI. That was a great use case. So I know that you like generative AI as well, and you teased up a little thing about Midjourney. So why don't we talk a little bit about that? What's going on there?
Yep. Let me show you one other thing that it was deeper in my slide deck, but it was like hard to make the jump to it. Here's where I believe that AI is going. And the reason why I was saying that was when we were at Macon, there was a company called Akio, and Akio got me thinking that Akio would basically, everything that has an API would all be plugged into Akio, and just Code Interpreter, it allows you to talk to that information in natural language prompting. In other words, like you talk to it like it's a person, right? But where it got me thinking is that this is what I believe the grand scheme of AI is that every piece of software that you're going to have will have an API. The API will connect to a central copilot that's AI driven. And so now you can talk to multiple pieces of software all at the same time, all from one place. So whether that's your QuickBooks or like what's going to happen if I raise $1 an hour? What am I going to do for my HR software, and how's it going to impact that? All of these things that you got to run a report, or you got to ask a person to run a report, and so on and so forth. Imagine you having control to all the strengths and weaknesses that you can talk to your software and analyze things all at one place in one copilot. I believe that is going to be the future, and that's where me as an organization, I'm trying to solve problems, not just do things more efficiently.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, awesome. Now let's talk about generative AI and Midjourney.
Okay, so I'm like the most visual person you can sort of ever imagine here. So when you think of Midjourney and stuff like that, right? So let's just say hypothetically, I go here.
Obviously, you're doing that. Midjourney, for those of you who don't know, is a generative AI tool that creates images. It's actually the one that I use almost daily. So, and now we're taking a look at that.
Now, a lot of it feels like very gimmicky, right? Meaning like I put in a prompt and I get an image out. Pretty cool, right? But it's also come a long way. It's like what it was in version 1 versus version 5 is very, very real. And you can put people's faces in it here. This is a guy who's in your roundup, I believe. Ron, I don't know Ron's last name. But basically put his face on Superman. But here's where it gets, sorry.
You think you're Peter Diamandis, but I'm the actual Peter Diamandis, and you...
Sorry if this is a little bit clunky. This is a gentleman who runs moonshots, and he's about to talk to his AI. Now watch this. I'm sorry for the people that are just listening in. This is, I can't think of the guy's name, but he's the host of Moonshots, and he's about to talk to his AI that looks and sounds just like him. I mean, is it 100%? No, but it's kind of freaky of knowing where this is going. So let me just kind of play this. Watch.
Are an AI on my podcast called Moonshots.
Okay.
Hello, Peter. It's an honor to have you on Moonshots. This is Peter Diamandis, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with you. Let's dive into the world of exponential technologies, moonshot thinking, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So, what's on your mind today, and how can we inspire our listeners to embrace a mindset of abundance and boldness? I appreciate the fact that you think you're Peter Diamandis, but I'm the actual Peter Diamandis, and you are an AI on my podcast called Moonshots. And just to make it simple, if you don't mind, I'd like to call you Peterbot so the audience can understand who's who.
So for people who aren't watching, there was a video, a split screen of a person and then his avatar. And the avatar, honestly, I wouldn't have known was an avatar if I just came in cold and saw the beginning of this. And if I can have my avatar, I just wanted to have slightly better hair than I have. And I think I'm good to go.
Yeah. Yep. So that's what it sort of looks like in video format. And obviously we can talk about how it's going to affect Hollywood and stuff like that. But here is what I believe is the big deal. So like, where am I using it from a use case here? Well, for example, I'm sure you've seen this picture here, but you'll see a picture of a gentleman basically riding he's cycling in like Montana and there's no lines on the road. Then you can just literally just ask for lines on the road using Adobe Firefly. I have clients, and I'm in the orthopedic space, and they don't wear stethoscopes when they consult with clients. So we have to use generative AI to basically remove the stethoscope. Now,
so what we're looking at here is a photo, stock photography, doctor wearing the stethoscope, because every doctor who is in stock photography is always wearing a stethoscope. And what you've done is just using this new generative AI tool from Adobe called Firefly is select that stethoscope, and then the very next picture, it's gone, and literally you would never know it had been there.
So now let's get into where the big scheme of Midjourney is going to get once we get past all the chipsets. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to fast forward. So what is the goal here, all right? Well, this is my business partner, Todd Smith, and Todd loves to golf, okay? Now, Todd is just like everybody else. He buys from businesses or companies that they know, that they like, and that they trust. So who does Todd know, like, and trust more than anybody on the planet? Himself. This is the human condition. He's not a narcissist. This is the human condition. This is the same reason why when we look at a photo, someone says it's a group photo, you always look for yourself. It's just, unfortunately, that's just the way life is. So now where does Midjourney come in? It is not just to create cute unicorns. What Midjourney is going to do is they're going to look and using content.ai and things like that, they're going to know all the demographics about Todd. They know he likes golf. And all of a sudden the ads that he gets are going to be generative AI, except for it's going to be someone who looks very similar to him in the ads. If I'm an Asian woman who loves kids, my ads will be shockingly similar to my demographics and who I know, love, like, and trust, which is myself. So the chipsets aren't fast enough to do this yet, but we're starting to see this in responsive ads on Meta, because Meta knows more about anything than, more about you than anything. But you're going to see this in all display advertising, that your ads will.
So instead of having stock photography or non-stock photography that is diverse, it's actually going to be very specific, just specific to the way we look.
Hyper personalized.
Very interesting change.
Specific to you. It's
right.
It's some crazy stuff though, right? Like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, that makes a total use case scenario. I mean, that makes total sense. Like, why wouldn't you show people who either are you or look like are you might be a little creepy, but look like you so that you see yourself more likely in those ads and you can imagine yourself in that new car or picking up that golf club or whatever it may be.
And I bet you that they will do them aspirationally different than you. I bet you they'll have 3 to 5% less body fat. You know what I mean? Like they will do things that are just out of your reach intentionally.
Right.
Yep.
Perfect. I'm curious, do your clients know that you use AI? Are they excited about it? Is this something that you're using as part of your promotion, or is this something that you kind of hide and only talk about if they say, hey, have you been using AI for any of these campaigns?
Well, I use AI a lot for ideation. I would say that it is not there yet. It's about a 30% increase in, I guess you would say, the power. And so because I can't do anything without a visual, this is my last visual, I promise. So this one I also stole from Macon, and this is what we believe should be used for AI. When you think about great content, right? So we always believe that great content should have been born out of great ideas and then great research and then you're composing it, you're editing it, and then you're distributing it. But the reality is that no matter how hard you try, you got to get an idea, but it's on an editorial calendar, so you got to pump it out. You try to research like crazy, but you don't have the time to do that. You spend a crap ton of time writing it. You send it off to your editor who's got to do it within an hour to stay within budget, and you hope to distribute it and promote it, but you got another article to write. Now, if the AI world has it so composition is faster, you can spend more time on those extra ingredients like better ideation, better research, better editing, and better distribution. And so you can reinvest in places that are going to be more consequential because everyone has access to these AI writing tools. So you can either be more efficient and save money or know that the competition is coming, and then you would reinvest to make basically the spear bigger, stronger, and faster.
So Chris, one of the things I know about some of the like OpenAI and ChatGPT and Claude is that they have cutoff dates. Like they only know information up to a certain date. You have you have a wide variety of different clients. I mean, you might have a focus on healthcare, but you have other type of clients. Things change all the time. Healthcare changes all the time. Are you concerned, or how do you overcome when you need to create content that might be a little bit more up to date than the latest cutoff date from some of these Gen AI tools?
So ChatGPT, in my opinion, is the best writing on the planet right now. It's not even close. So what I do is that when I have to use something that is more modern, I will go and I'll do research out of Bard, which is connected to the internet, or Bing AI, which is connected to the internet. I'm a huge fan of Pi.ai in my research. Remember when I showed you that really creepy phone thing? Like it's what Siri will be, but you can talk to this thing. It talks to you like it's a person. And it's really creepy, right? Well, they connected that to the internet. And so I'll say, hey, I'm going to write a blog today about how AI is going to change the automobile industry. And Elon is changing this thing by the minute, right? So if it's 2021, I'm going to be way out of date, but it's connected to the internet. And we're talking about Dojo, which is Elon's new supercomputer. We're talking about all these modern things. And everything that I talk it to on the device, it also has the written version. So when I get to my office, I do it while I'm driving. When I get to all the text is there. I do a ton of research by talking to AI. It's crazy.
And for those of you who haven't tried this, Chris showed it to me at Macon, like he said. It's PI. It's an app it's definitely on iOS. I assume it's also on Android as well.
Yeah, I think so. I know it's on.
If not, get an iPhone. Yeah. But yeah, it is incredibly conversive. And I remember one of my first days back from Macon, I sat on my back patio, put my phone on my chest, and had a 45-minute long conversation with Pi about a wide variety of different, sometimes nuanced topics, like how do I introduce AI to my team, and also what were some of the best Marvel Cinematic Universe movies of all time. Yeah. So it's really crazy how real and how authentic these conversations feel. So I recommend everybody go and check that one out as well.
And the answer to that question is Infinity War.
I might say Civil War, but anyways, we can discuss that later. Which is actually my daughter's least favorite because she doesn't like when heroes fight. Okay. So there are a lot, and I know we could talk about a lot of different things, but I am curious to get your take on this. There are a lot of concerns around generative AI these days, things like biases, copyright issues,
Yes.
job loss, hallucinations. How do those concerns impact your use of AI, or are you just not worried about some of those issues?
Well, I mean, I think that in the editing process, I try to catch it there. But what I think from a hallucination standpoint is that we use a program called Claude by Anthropic. Claude allows you to upload a file that has 75,000 words. So I believe that hallucination issue is a big, big, big issue. And so what I did is I trained my staff to create what's called the super document. And the super document, I'm going to get things like the case studies, testimonials, my best-selling blogs, our core values, every single thing about our company, our clients' company, their brand, their messaging, every single thing I could possibly think of, their buyer personas, interview questions. I put that all into a super document. And then the first thing I do is Anthropic or Claude is I say, rather than you like sort of scouring the AI, I want you to always reference the super document when you create the following content. Therefore, it's always referencing things that are already known and approved and so on and so forth. So that's...
Do you have, and Claude is actually my favorite, so I'm curious to know how you do this. So you've uploaded this super document, as you said, and it basically has everything that Farotech is all about. And so everything then is generated through that lens. But when I've talked to Claude, sometimes it can only deal with the thread or the conversation that I'm in right there.
Yep.
So are you always going back to that original thread and said, okay, now I need you to write a mission statement, or now I need you to write a sales letter, but you're always in that original thread that has the super doc attached, or you're uploading it, I guess, again to a new thread?
Ironically, like I find that with all AI, so I speak Spanish. I'm not good at Spanish. I speak it. And if you and I were talking about Marvel Comics, I could maybe hang on, right? But if someone came over and said, hey, what hotel are you at? If she changed the context, my Spanish can't figure out what I just heard, right? That's sort of the same way with AI from my exhaustive usage. I basically get one contextual argument in one tab, and then sometimes I find it's better to just open up another tab, import the super document, and then go into my second content and so on and so forth.
Okay.
It's not pretty, but I just get a better result by asking it, like wiping the slate clean, uploading the super document, and then using the context that way. At the end, I marry them together, I throw it into ChatGPT, and I edit in ChatGPT.
So you prefer ChatGPT's writing to Claude. That's what I'm hearing.
By a long shot. I also use their whisper technology, and for an ADD guy, like you can just see how I fidget like crazy. It's the greatest invention of my entire professional career is Whisper.
I'm not familiar with Whisper. Tell me about that, please.
So Whisper is a button that you just basically, you click it once and you just freeform and you just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And then you just say, turn that into content or turn that into whatever. And it is freakishly good about organizing your thoughts, organizing your words, saying it correctly and stuff like that.
And this is within the ChatGPT universe, or is this a standalone product?
It's a Chrome extension.
Okay.
But it's not Prompt Genius. Sorry, I'm trying to look at I think it's called TalkBerry. But it's using OpenAI's Whisper technology. Whisper technology is the reason why their dictation is so much better and stuff like that. So if you got the new iOS, do you do dictation on your phone? Like you just type a text message and you say
a little bit. It's usually not the way I work, but I do know that a lot of people love thinking out loud like that. So yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, the reason why a lot of people probably wouldn't do it is because it was like 60% effective. So then after you did it, you're like, then I'm correcting, and it's like a pain in the butt.
Right.
iOS came out.
Or a day later, you're like, what was I talking about? I think I was hallucinating.
iOS is now using the AI format. You can tell it's like a Whisper technology. It's like 99% accurate. Like it is crazy intuitive. And so my point is that this Whisper thing is going to be a big part about how we communicate with AI. It's changed the landscape by dragging dictation, and like Whisper is like 1,000% better.
What is the number one best way that you're using AI today, in your opinion, in terms of creating marketing campaigns or doing any sort of content creation? And if you've already told us what it is, that's great. But if it's something different, let us know.
Transparently, it's probably just using large language models like combination ChatGPT, Phrase, and Claude. I mean, that's that's just how I've been able to get a much better product faster.
And if somebody came to you and said, but everything you're doing is cheating, I'm not saying that. But if somebody came to you and said, what you're doing is cheating, this isn't like marketing, you're just using machines to do all this sort of stuff, how would you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're trying to look for the outcome, but I'm going to throw this back at you, Rich. I'm your accountant, and you've been my client for 10 years. I just think you're so, so great, Rich. So what I've done is I've done your taxes, and you know what I did? Because I love you so much, I did them by hand. What would you say?
Right. Well, since I don't know much about accounting, I'd be like, that seems old school, but okay.
I would be like, do them over again. You didn't use a calculator.
Right, yeah.
You didn't use a spreadsheet. You didn't, you know what I mean?
Right.
So like in the short term, is it cheating? A little bit, but eventually it's like a calculator for words. And if you didn't use a calculator to do my taxes, I got a serious problem with that.
Right. You're either a savant or no. And I understand because I feel the same way. And I do think that there are some ways that we might be quote unquote cheating when we use AI. And I am concerned about how easy it is to create crap content if you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
But I do think that like saying that marketers or students or lawyers shouldn't be using these tools is like saying they shouldn't be able to Google information either. So, I mean, that's just my 2 cents on it, but everybody's going to come somewhere down on that spectrum.
I think that you got major atrophy problems in the future and stuff like that. But what I will say is that if the technology is there, to ignore it would be a big mistake too. I think that you and I, because we're always with our peers, we think it's cheating because I'm a marketer, you're a marketer, and we think that it's all that special sauce. But what I think, it levels the playing field, and it actually is going to make the true marketers really stand out and the other ones not as much. Because let's just talk about SEO. The old school SEO used to be, let's look for keywords that have less competition and high volume. Well, now that everybody can write gobs and gobs of content, that real estate is going to go a whole lot smaller. So if you're going to be an SEO now, it's a street fight. You know, it's going to be harder to do our job, but it's going to be one of those things where even the entry level people can catch up and do foundational things. Let me show you.
And I've seen this for the past 26 years as I've been in this industry, that there's always some new tool that comes out that levels the playing field, but it's the people who understand how to use that technology that really ultimately end up ahead.
Let me kind of show you the analogy that I use a lot. So this is like a building, and to our listeners, this is a skyscraper, all right? And the quote that I have here is that the things that a lot of people that come to me are saying, what, am I going to lose my job? And I say, yes, you are going to lose your job, but the new job that you'll have is going to be so much better in the ideal sense. And I say that the things we're going to be doing on a regular basis have not even been dreamt of yet, all right? And so here's the deal, is that companies come to my organization and we do some really cool marketing stuff. But if they sit down with me long enough, I say, you know what's really cutting edge? You could do this, and you could do this, and you could do this, and you could do this. And they say, well, I don't even have the foundation done yet. What AI is going to do is it's going to allow us to do those foundational things bigger, stronger, and faster. And we're going to finally get around to the advanced strategy and the cool stuff that we couldn't get to because it was probably out of budget, because I always had to make the donuts. I always had to do foundational things. So now if we can get past the mediocrity of the foundational things, we can get to the very innovative, cool things.
Absolutely. And I also think right now we're in this phase where ChatGPT and Midjourney are so sexy and exciting from where we were a year ago, that's where the focus is. But I loved what you showed earlier on the analytics side, because I think that's really like a place where you still have to be creative. You still have to know the right questions to ask, and then you still have to be able to implement those campaigns anyways. I'm sure advanced AI will help us with those steps as well. But that's where I really see where the average marketers or the average companies can separate themselves using AI from everybody else. So this has been great. If people want to learn more about Farotech or connect with you personally, Chris, where can we send them? You can go to info@farotech.com. That would be the email address. But here's what I do that's pretty cool is I go to businesses and I give a free session. It's about an hour. It's an hour-long session with 30-minute questions and answers afterwards. And I give them it's called AI Today, and it's the state of AI, where it's at now, where it's going, and how companies can be prepared. Because you and I are on top of this, Rich.
There's so many companies that are going to get rolled by this, not because they weren't a great company, but because they adapted too late or they didn't see it coming. And it sort of feels like a mission of mercy, but I'm trying to say, this is the asteroid coming to Earth, and you can survive it. But if you wait, you bury your head in the sand, it's going to be a really rough road for you. It's going to be a really rough road for your employees. So I give that free presentation. I give it almost 15 times a month now, Rich. It's crazy. I'm also,
All right. And we'll have,
I'm also midway through my generative AI course. I'm at MIT right now, and it is absolutely gangbusters. The kind of like nerd level stuff I'm hearing at the top and seeing at the top that I'm able to apply to these lessons. It's like something that if I didn't pay for this opportunity, I never would have seen it. And it's something that I can pass along, which is a lot of fun.
awesome. And we'll have all those links in the show notes. Chris, thank you so much for your time and your absolute expertise in everything AI today. For a full transcript of my conversation with Chris, all the links he shared in a summary, just head on over to our website at theagentsofchange.com/504. And again, I hope we get this live by September 27th so you can take advantage of the discounts and visit us in Portland, Maine, or watch online the Agents of Change Digital Marketing Conference. If not, or if you're not hearing this in time, we'll probably offer the on-demand video as a standalone offering, and I'll have more on that in a few weeks when the dust settles and I catch up on sleep. But this is the best deal you're ever going to get, so if you haven't yet, take action now and become the agent of change that I know you are.
Don't miss another thrilling episode of the Agents of Change podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform.